Okay.
It says it's raining every day. It's not.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Okay. You can hear me loud and clear. Let me know. If you're watching online, let us know. Okay, the audio, everything should be working perfectly. Shem. I think it is. I hope it is. Now we're just waiting for someone to say hi. Chaim l'chaim. We're looking for. Just put it in. The office at mychabadcenter.org. Office at mychabadcenter.org. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, good evening, Kim, who's not here in person, but we're happy you're online. Good evening, Shira. Welcome. Hope you're feeling well and healthy. Good evening, Mindy. And good evening, Stephanie. And good evening, Michael. And Shavua Tov to our dear friend Art. Okay, so we got the crowd watching. Happy birthday to Randy. Your birthday keeps. I thought you were going. Soon. Birthday keeps on going. Okay, good evening to everyone in the room. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ravit, how are you? Shalom, Erev Tov. Okay, so my friends, today's class is in memory of Yitzchak Tzvi Ben Yosef. His neshama should have an elevation. It's going to be a good class. God willing, if you're watching, please say hi. Let us know where you're watching from. Good evening, everyone from all over the world. Hello, Stephanie. Hello to the crowd. Stephanie says hello to everyone. So, as you may know already by now, these are classes that I prepare. So there's things that get into my head, and I keep on coming back, but deeper and deeper and deeper. So we're going to learn a Mishnah tonight that we learned several weeks ago, a fascinating Mishnah about the hectic time right before Shabbat, which is very validating for all those in the room that somehow find no matter how much they think they're going to be organized and no matter how much they tell themselves, I'm going to make a list and I'm going to have everything done by Thursday evening and Friday I'll be all organized and all calm, and then somehow, some way, you can't figure it out, but comes Friday afternoon, and even if it's summertime and even if Shabbos doesn't begin till 8 o'clock at night, somehow they're still running around and it's still hectic. So it's very, very validating and very encouraging to know that we're a good company, because God Almighty himself, who you would think is the most organized, right? You think, God, who can be more organized than God? He knows everything he needs to do. He can't forget anything. He has everything organized, everything is prepared. And even God himself is running around last second, literally moments before Shabbat begins. At that time, in between sunset and nightfall. In English, we call it dusk. In Hebrew, we call it bein hashmashos, between the suns, between the sun and the moon. That's the light of night. In between that time, we have an in-between period. So it's kind of Shabbos, but it's not 100%. We don't know how to tell the exact moment when Friday ends and when Saturday begins. So we err on the side of caution both ways. So on Friday, Shabbat begins at sunset. We actually begin 18 minutes earlier, but the minimum begins when the sun goes down. But Shabbat doesn't end at sunset. Shabbat ends when the stars come out. Shabbat ends at nightfall, which is why we have a 25-hour Shabbat. It's a very Jewish way of counting time. Day is not 24, coming for a day. How long is your day? It's a little longer than 24 hours, like 25 hours, because of this in-between time. But God knows the exact moment of Shabbat. So he's able to work even after what we would call candlelighting time, even after what we would call sunset, when you're not allowed to do anything. God was, so to say, still running around, metaphorically, last minute, the last things that were needed to get the world ready for Shabbat. So for all those who are always rushing last minute, it's very validating. What? It feels very. I know. I saw on your face. So all those like Marsha, and you're not the minority. Don't worry about it. There's nothing wrong. There's actually many reasons why we get stressed out of Shabbos. By the way, it makes you further appreciate Shabbat more when Shabbat comes in. That's true. But also the Yetzer Hara. I wasn't 1 minute detour. The Yetzer Hara actually tries to make us stressed out on Friday afternoon in order to get us to fight and to scream and to shout. Because at a time of greater holiness and greater potential for holiness, the more the forces of evil try to counter the holiness that's coming. And so because it's a very holy time, there's negativity that comes to fight against that holiness, to fight against that negativity. And it's specifically why people can be calm and relaxed all week. Friday afternoon feel stressed out. And that's directly because the Yetzer Hara is trying to stress us out to ruin the holiness of Shabbat. He gets no vacation, the Yetzer Hara. He works 7 days a week. The Yetzer Hara? So first of all, let me say hello to everyone else that's watching. So many beautiful people joining us from all over the world, from Holiday, Florida, and from Heidi and Sheila and Christine and Melina and Robin from Cleveland, Ohio. But I'll tell you a quick story about the Yetzer Hara, just a quick minute. So Marsha, there was once a young boy who came late to synagogue. I don't remember, he was a great rabbi. I don't remember who it was. So when he missed morning services, so his father asked him, "Where were you? You slept in." So listen, I got up in the morning, my alarm clock went off, and I was going to come to shul, but then my Yetzer Hara started, that voice inside me started convincing me, go back to sleep, you're tired, you went to sleep late last night, don't get up so early, blah, 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 back and forth. So I was fighting with my Yetzer Hara, that's why I came late to shul. So his father says to him, you should learn from the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara, when it was time to get up and to do his job, the Yetzer Hara was up doing his job. He didn't start late. He started on time. So this young boy tells his father, yeah, that's because the Yetzer Hara has no Yetzer Hara to stop him from getting up to do his job. So Erev Shabbat is a time of holiness. We're about to create something very holy. So the Yetzer Hara comes to fight that. But anyway, that's just a side note. So comes the very, very, very first Friday of all of creation. There's nobody in the world except for Adam and Chava who already messed up big time. That's not for another class. And now God is seemingly finishing what's still missing from the world. And of course, the fact that God waited to the last second means that these are important to tell us that the world is not complete without these. So what are these 10 things? If you look at the Mishnah from chapter 5 of Pirkei Avos, Mishnah 6, Sara Dvarim, 10 things were created at twilight of Shabbos Eve. These are, number 1, the mouth of the earth that swallowed Korach. We learned about this 3 weeks ago, right? Korach sinned against Moshe, and Moshe prayed to God and said to God, if I'm not acting on your behalf, let him die a regular death. But if I'm acting on your behalf, prove to the world, prove to the naysayers that I'm acting on your instructions, and make a new kind of death that never existed before. And as soon as Moshe finished, the earth opened up and swallowed him alive in a way that no one had ever died before. The second miracle is the mouth of Miriam's well. We learned about the traveling well of Miriam. It was a rock. And from the mouth of the rock, out came water for 40 years to sustain the Jewish people. The third miracle is the mouth of Bilam's donkey. We learned the story just a few days ago on Shabbat. The story of Bilam was traveling. He was a very famous sorcerer. And I'll say the story in a minute. I'll tell you the story in a minute. I'll say the story. He was a sorcerer, went to go curse the Jews. And when he was on the way, his donkey opened his mouth to tell Bilam. Bilam hit the donkey opened his mouth to argue with Bilam. And it's a miracle of the talking donkey. The fourth miracle is a miracle of the rainbow, where God showed Noah a sign that he would never again destroy the world. Because Noah came out of the ark and he was demoralized. He was depressed. That's how to destroy the world. He said, I'm never going to build the world. So God made a rainbow. Number 5 is the bread from heaven that came down, the manna, that kept the Jews alive for 40 years in the desert. Number 6 is the stick of Moshe that he used in order, the stick of Moshe he used to do the 10 plagues, to split the sea. Number 7 is a shamir, which is the worm that was used to cut the stones of the temple, because there was no metal used in the actual temple. So they used this special worm that would eat the stone. Number 9 is the writing of the tablets. Number 10 is the inscription and the tablets that were made with the handiwork of Hashem. There were many miracles of the tablets. How you can look on all sides, and whichever way you looked at the tablets, it looked like the letters were facing you. Normally, if you write on this side, right, the words are on this side. If you look on this side, it looks backwards. And if you engrave it and also the letters that were engraved through and through. So a letter like a final mem that has a hole in the middle, there's no way to have a hole in the middle that doesn't fall. If you've had a stencil, for example, there's a little line there, right, to hold it in place. And miraculously, the samach and the final mem that had holes in the middle, the holes stayed. They didn't move. They stayed exactly. Some say also that God at Erev Shabbos, right before night, made the burial place of Moses and the ram of our father Abraham that he used when he came to Mount Moriah. And instead of offering his son as an offering, he took the 2 horns. That's the ram. And some also say the spirit of destruction as well as tongues. For tongues are made with tongues. And if you remember our conversation last time we learned this Mishnah, what do we primarily focus on? I can share that, happily married. What's the tongues? We learned why is that a miracle? We learned about when you prepare. We had a class and go back and look for it. The preparing for something else. Tongues have no value of their own. They're only used to make something else or to carry something else, and appreciating the waiting in our life and the things we do, not for itself, but for something else. And the preparing of a mitzvah is as valuable as the mitzvah, etc. Correct. The cooking of Erev Shabbat is a mitzvah. Totally, it's special. There's a divine energy in that. That's what I'm saying. And that's why there's spiritual resistance. There's spiritual resistance to that work of Erev Shabbat, because that preparation is the tongues that were also made on Friday evening that had a lot of value in God's eyes. What I want to talk about today is the miracle of the talking donkey. First of all, talking donkeys are pretty cool. You may have seen a few in your lifetime outside of the zoo. There's a few talking donkeys walking around, especially, I'm not going to use the other word. I don't know why they used to be called something else. But there's a few of them that walk around, and some of them are professionals. They even get jobs on TV or on whatever in politics. They're good at it. They're talking donkeys. Anyway. So talking donkey is actually a pretty cool miracle that God made. But I'm going to read to you the story of the talking donkey. But before I do, I want to ask you 2 questions. I'm going to tell you in advance the 2 questions, or actually 2 of the 3 questions that I want to address tonight. I'm going to say it to you before we read the text. So when we read this miracle, one of the 10 miracles that God himself made sure to do right before Shabbos, as the sun is going down, I'm going to ask you to think of 2 questions. Question number 1, why was this miracle necessary? Question number 2, how did this miracle help? Now, let me explain to you something very important. In general, we know a rule in Torah that God does not do miracles for no reason. God created a world with a system of nature, and nature runs properly. That's the way God made the world. So God does not break his own rules unless there's a reason. So God's allowed to break his own rules. It's pretty cool when you're God, you get to break the rules. But even though God sometimes breaks his rules, so to say, he only does it if there's a reason why he couldn't do this naturally. And the only way to do it is miraculously. So do a miracle. So just for example, when the Jewish people are escaping Egypt and they come to the edge of the sea and the Egyptian army is coming towards them, there is no natural way for God to save the Jews from the Egyptians. So God has to do a miracle where we understand why he did the miracle, number 1. And number 2, we know how the miracle helped to save the Jews and drown the Egyptians. So let's read the story about this talking donkey. And I'm going to ask you to think as we're reading it, why was this miracle? Why did God need to bring the donkey? Why did he? There's 2 questions. Number 1, why did he need to do it? Why couldn't he send an angel? Why couldn't he say don't go, etc.? And number 2, if for whatever reason God had to do a miracle to stop Bilam from going to curse the Jewish people, is this miracle actually being effective? If you were rating miracles on a scale of 1 to 10, like how good they are, how impressive they are, how impressive is this miracle of the talking donkey? Okay? So let's read. If you're not watching on my personal page, on my page, I'm going to share the text. If you're not, open the Chumash to Bamidbar. It's the last week's Torah reading, chapter 22, verse number 27. just a quick introduction. Bilam, quick introduction before we start reading the text. Bilam was approached by messengers of the king of Moab. His name is Balak. And the messengers say to Bilam, please come and curse the Jewish people. They're a big threat. Bilam knows he can't curse them without God's permission. So what does he say? Stay overnight. Let me talk to God. Let me see if I get permission. If I can get authorization, I'm happy to go with you. That night, God appears to Bilam, and he says to Bilam, what are these men doing here? He says, they want to hire me. They want to give me an important job to curse the Jews. God tells Bilam, you cannot go. That's it. Bilam understands he has no permission to go. So he's very disappointed, but he follows the instructions. He says, I'm sorry, I have no permission to go. But instead of saying, I can't go because God didn't let me, and admitting that he can't do what God doesn't let him to do, he says technically the correct thing, but he frames it and he implies, I'm not going to go with you. You guys are not worthy of my honor. Meaning, I really, really do want to go, so let's negotiate. So he says I can't go, but he's winking. I can't go with you guys. A little more money, a little more prestigious, delegation, and I'm open to revisiting the conversation in a few days. So when they come back to their king, to Balak, they don't say God doesn't let Bilam go. They say Bilam said he wants more money. He wants a better proposal. He wants a better offer. So Balak sends a better offer. Bilam gets the second offer from a more impressive delegation for more money. So Bilam again says stay overnight, and he really, really wants to go. So God appears to him and says, what's going on? Bilam, who are these men? And God is letting him make a mistake, think that God doesn't know what's happening. Says they came, they want me to go, etc. And Bilam really wants to go. So God says, if you want to go, I'll let you go. But I'm warning you that you will only be able to say that which I tell you to say. He didn't say bless. He said only that which I tell you to say. And that should have been a very clear, obvious warning sign to Bilam. Danger. God is not good. God doesn't like this. God already said yesterday, I don't like it. But people do what they want to do, right? You met people like that. We've all met talking donkeys, and we all met people that only hear what they want to hear. And so Bilam starts to journey with the messengers of the king Balak. On the way, God sends an angel to block the path. Sending an angel is not a miracle. God has many, many angels who do many jobs for God. And so it's pretty normal and natural for God to send an angel to block the way. That's normal. The angel comes the first time and he blocks the road. And what does the donkey who sees the angel do? Goes off into the field on the right. It just goes off into the field off the road. Now the donkey saw the angel. Bilam did not see the angel. So Bilam hits the donkey to go back on the road. A second time, again, the angel appears on the road. This time, it's a much more narrow road. And there's a fence on the side or a vineyard on the side. And the donkey goes to the side of the road and he scrapes the leg of Bilam against the wall as he's, going along the very edge of the road. And again, Bilam is very angry at this donkey that went off the road. And again, he hits the donkey. A third time they're walking, and the third time the angel blocks the path. This time there is no room to go, not to the right, not to the left. There's nowhere to go. So what does the donkey do? It stops. And here we come to verse 27. The she-donkey saw the angel of the Lord, and it crouched down under Bilam. Bilam's anger flared, and he beat the she-donkey with a stick. And now we come, my friends. I should have started over here, but it's fine. And now comes the miracle we've all been waiting for. The Lord opened the mouth of the she-donkey. And she said to Bilam, what have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times? This is the first miracle where the donkey talks to Bilam and says, why are you hitting me? So Bilam says to the she-donkey, he answers, having a conversation, for you have humiliated me. If I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now. He should have said, hold on, talking donkey, danger, what's going on? Why is my donkey talking to me? But Bilam is so self-righteous and so convinced of his greatness and that he says to the donkey, you humiliated me by not being a good donkey going straight. And if I would have a sword, I would kill you, which I have to point out what the commentaries say is a crazy thing. Why did they hire Bilam? Because he was good with a sword, or he knew how to curse with his mouth? His mouth. He's a sorcerer. So what do sorcerers do to donkeys that don't listen? Turn them into a frog. Right? That's what he should have done. He should have said, I'm going to turn you into Kermit the Frog. Instead, he says, if I would have a sword, I would kill you. A, he's an idiot, doesn't have a sword. I'm saying, which important person travels without a sword? And he has no verbal ability to curse the donkey. It's very embarrassing. Anyway, comes miracle number 2. A second time, God opens the mouth of the donkey, and the she-donkey says to Bilam, am I not your she-donkey, on which you have ridden, since you first started until now? Have I been accustomed to do this to you? And he said, no. So before I go further and tell you about when he sees the angel, I first have to tell you some fascinating medrash on this. 1 second. Fascinating medrash on this verse. The donkey actually says 6 different things. He embarrasses Bilam repeatedly. When the messengers who had come to hire Bilam they go in the morning, I'm going to go with you. So what does he do? He goes to saddle his donkey to go travel. Now they thought Bilam was an important guy. That's, he marketed himself as a big macher. So they say, you don't have a horse, you don't have servants, you don't have a chariot. My chariot's broken, my horse is out to pasture. I'm eager to go with you, so I'm so eager, I'm going to take my donkey. He pretended like he had other animals. He was taking the donkey. So the donkey asks him, am I not your she-donkey that you always have? So he says, yeah, he's embarrassed. So he says to them, but this is just what I use normally for carrying transportation, for carrying stuff, not for me. Then she says, on which you have ridden. So he has to admit that, yeah, this is the only donkey he's ever ridden on. And then he said, but just recently. He says, from when you started until now, you've never owned another animal. And again, for a man, then he says, have I ever done this before? But the rabbis say that in these words is a hint. The donkey is saying to Bilam, not only have you rode me as a regular vehicle, a regular animal of transportation, you've also ridden upon me in other sexual ways. And you've used me for your own sexual benefit, for your own pleasure. I've kept you warm. The Hebrew word, I've kept you warm at night. Bilam was not such a righteous, moral man. He had an affair with a donkey that he used for transportation. Yeah. This is the great man of the non-Jews that they're hiring as a sorcerer. And Bilam can't lie. The donkey's talking. It's kind of hard to lie to a talking donkey. So it is. I'm saying if the donkey starts talking to you, if your pet puppy started talking to you, you'd be too shocked to start lying either, right? So he's forced to admit that, yeah, this is the donkey that I ride on a day and what keeps me warm at night. And he answers all these things. So he's very, very embarrassed by this talking donkey that's revealing all of its secrets. So twice the donkey has spoken to Bilam. The first time that it spoke to Bilam, what did it say? Why did you hit me 3 times? The second time that it spoke to Bilam, it said, I've never not been loyal to you. You've ridden on me all your life. And I've never once veered off the road. And I've never once scraped your leg. I've never once not followed the path I was supposed to follow. So you should have understood that there's something blocking me. You should have known that if I'm crouching, and I've never in all the years that you've owned me and ridden upon me, I've never once turned off the path once, hit the road twice, crouched and stopped 3 times. You should have known something is going on, but you didn't get it. Now, Bilam should have understood. He should have understood, but he still doesn't get it. He's still not registering. He's still not getting the message. So what happens next? God has no choice. He's not hearing what the donkey's really saying. He's arguing with the donkey, but he's not. You can argue with someone and not hear what they said, right? You all know what I'm talking about. So Bilam is arguing with his donkey. He's not hearing at all what the donkey is saying. The donkey is saying, don't you realize something is blocking the path? But he's not hearing that. So, verse 31, the Lord opened Bilam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a sword drawn in his hand, the sword that Bilam didn't have, the angel has. And now Bilam is embarrassed. He bows down and he prostrates himself on his face. And the angel of the Lord said to him, why have you beaten your she-donkey these 3 times? It wasn't your donkey that stopped. Behold, I came out. It was me, the angel, that came to thwart you. For the one embarking on the journey has hastened against me. Meaning, don't blame the donkey. I came to stop you. And when the she-donkey saw me, it turned aside these 3 times. Had she not turned aside before me, I would have also killed you and spared her, the donkey. Meaning, if the donkey would have kept on going, you would have crashed and you would have died in the car accident. A donkey hits an angel. It was sure like, you would have died. So the donkey spared your life by not continuing, by stopping. Be thankful to the donkey that it spared your life instead of being angry and hitting the donkey, because I was the angel that was blocking its path. Bilam, there's any more truths there if you want. Right here. Bilam saw, okay, that's what the angel says. So Bilam says to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned. He finally gets it. He finally gets it. For I did not know that you were standing on the road before me. To listen to these words. I'm going to go back to these words a little later. Now, if it is evil before you, ashuvali, I will return. If it displeases you, I will return. What does that sound like? Imagine you have an argument with somebody, with your spouse, I don't know, someone, and they did something wrong. And then they say, if it makes you upset, I won't do it again. Not that they acknowledge that it's hurtful what they said or that what they did is wrong. If you have a problem, let me know, and I'll try and be more sensitive to your OCD, imaginary, sensitive, right? They don't take responsibility. So Bilam here is saying, if he doesn't say, you're right, I should stop, something blocking the path. He says, if it displeases you, I'll return. And by the way, Bilam is actually criticizing the angel here, in between the lines. He says to the angel, God told me I could go, and you're blocking me. Who are you? I already had permission from God to go. So I can't argue with you. If you say I can't go, I'll stop. But I already have permission from God, and you're just an angel, and you're going to come and tell me that I can't go. So the angel says, fine, you can go. Just remember what God said. You can only say whatever words God puts into your mouth. Okay. That's the story, my friends, of the miracle of the talking donkey. So now who has an answer to my question? Question number one that I asked you before. Why is this miracle necessary? Why is this miracle necessary? If God wanted to stop Bilam from going to curse the Jewish people, did he need to do a miracle and break the rules of nature and make animals start talking outside of Disney World? What was the reason for the talking donkey? God could have just sent an angel. Okay, that's why God did a miracle, to embarrass Bilam? What was the objective of the miracle? To embarrass Bilam, or to get him to stop going on the way to curse the Jewish people? To get him to stop to not go curse the Jewish people, right? So if God's objective in doing this is to stop him from going, or to tell him don't go, you know what God could have done? Just say, don't go. Very smart. Or God could have sent an angel and said to the angel, don't let him go. What's the point of the miracle? A miracle has to have a purpose. It has to have an objective. There has to be something that you're trying to accomplish with the miracle. But it seems that God's not even trying to accomplish anything, because God opens the mouth of the donkey 1 second, and then he lets him still go. Yes, Marsha, and then Sarah. Okay, free chores are going to get there in a minute. Very good. How much faith who has? How much faith that he didn't get the hint? Okay, didn't have faith. Okay. Stephanie's saying to teach us intuition to listen. Okay. We're going to get there also. What are your thoughts on the... Okay, we'll talk about that afterwards. You understand the first question? Yeah. If he would have crashed into him. The angel killing Bilam wouldn't have been a capital punishment. It'd be like if, God forbid, you're driving a car and you crash into a tree. God forbid, not you. I'm saying it's not a capital punishment. It's just a consequence of hitting a tree. If a person would crash into the angel, he would have died from the godliness of the angel. There wouldn't be like a capital punishment with a court deciding a ruling that he would have killed me. That you would have died by crashing into me. The angel stopped you from dying by hitting me. The angel protected you. It's not a capital punishment. It's not the rules of capital punishment. Yeah. God said no, but then God said yes. So you can choose the first day God said no, or the second day God said yes. And Bilam chose the yes. Fine. But now God said, even though I said yes, I want to give him a hint not to go. So God's doing, not just sending an angel to stop him, God is also breaking the rules of nature, which God doesn't do for no reason. God only breaks the rules of nature if there's a need to break the rules of nature. We understand the mouth of the stone gave water because the Jews are in the desert. There's no natural way to give the Jews water in the desert. So you break the rules of nature, right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. If God wants to prove that he has the power to do whatever he wants to do, he could do a lot of things. Why does making a donkey talk prove, especially no one was even there, the Torah is telling us, there's many miracles that God did to prove his power. He split the sea, the 10 plagues. This is, anyway, let's go to the second question. Let's say God wants to say, I have the power. Let me ask you one more question. Does, true, but why does he have to break the rules of nature to prove it right here? To Bilam. How does making the donkey talk? Okay, fine. So I have another question for you. Does a miracle work? Seemingly, ostensibly, what's the objective of the miracle, making the donkey talk? To change him to not go. And what happens after the donkey talks? He still goes. So did the miracle even work? It was a waste of a miracle. He does kill the donkey, but I didn't want to go there. He does kill the donkey, and it's not fair to the donkey. I know, in the animal rights movement. No, the animal, you're right. The donkey, I deliberately didn't say it, but the donkey, when the angel says, I would kill you also and save the donkey, means I killed the donkey in order not to embarrass you, which is actually another very beautiful, beautiful lesson. Because people shouldn't look at the donkey. That was the source of a human being's embarrassment. The angel rather, killed the donkey to avoid Bilam being embarrassed for the rest of his life in the presence of his donkey. Is a very powerful lesson how careful we need to be not to embarrass or to shame somebody else. And therefore, the donkey that did nothing wrong was killed. Just like if it, whatever. I don't want to go into that class now. I on purpose didn't say that. So the guy said it now. Yeah. But my question is very simple. If God does a miracle, you would assume the miracle would work. God breaks the rules of nature. He goes beyond what he's ever done. He never before or after human history will make an animal talk. Again, besides for Disney World. He never would make a human animal talk. The one time that God breaks the rules of nature to allow an animal to talk to a human, it's a waste. It's a flop. You read the story. We read it inside. The donkey talks and nothing, and that has no value. Seemingly, it's a waste of a miracle. No, you don't think it's a waste of a miracle? Can't be a waste. Well, that's why the night's not over yet. I'm not going home yet. I have one more question. Yeah, I need time for the answer still. Yeah.
It's a lesson that even this despicable person's life is worth a miracle from
Okay. If the miracle works, but it seems like the miracle didn't work. So, but Robert's saying that because eventually Bilam will be killed, he's trying to save his life, but the miracle didn't work. So, seemingly it's a flop of a miracle. I see a lot of comments here. I hope you all enjoying. Anyway, the point is God wants to show his power and sovereignty over any decision that he alone can do when he wants. That's what you were saying. I have one more question for you. What is Pirkei Avos? This is this story of the talking donkey is brought down the ethics of our fathers. What is ethics of our fathers? A book of moral teachings, right? What's the moral teaching for us from knowing that a miracle happened that the donkey talked? I mean, that's the same question on the Torah, really. Now I'm thinking about it. When God tells us in the Torah the story of a talking donkey, there has to be a life lesson for us. What lesson are we meant to learn in our lives from the fact that a donkey talked? Besides the fact today you have talking donkeys, you have yeah. Yeah. Right. So if you would hear your animal talking to you, that would wake you up and say, I better listen. Right. So Bilam should have done that, but he didn't. So it seems like the miracle didn't work. Seems like a flop. Your accent says not listening. Shows you how wicked he was that even when his animal talked to him, he still didn't listen. Okay. So we have three questions here. Number one question is, why is God breaking the rules of nature to allow an animal to talk? We could have just sent an angel, stopped Bilam from going. We could have just told him, don't go. Number two question is, once he decided to break the rules of nature, at least make it an effective miracle. I'm saying, like, you're God. Like every other miracle we know that happens, it does something. Something cool happens afterwards. This miracle, nothing happened. Yeah, but that's not because of the talking donkey. The fact that Balaam would give blessings to the Jews that are curses because God controlled the words that came out of his mouth. So God's in control. So if God's going to be in control, so then don't stop him. According to what you're saying, if God's going to let Balaam go so he can bless the Jews instead of curse them, then don't send the donkey, don't send the angel, let him go and bless the Jews. And my third question is, what's the lesson for us? Why is this an ethical teaching in ethics of our fathers to know that one on Erev Shabbos, and not only that, it's Friday afternoon, literally minutes before Shabbos. And what is God busy with? To create a talking donkey, the only talking animal in history for a miracle that won't even do anything. It's not going to help if you go against God, but why are you doing the miracle to prove that? You want to prove you're God, you're God. Why do you need to make an animal talk to do that? So, what? You want to give him a chance to change his mind? Okay, very good. So I'm going to answer these questions like a real rabbi. No, I don't do it. So how do rabbis answer questions? With a question. So I'll ask you a question, which is as follows. Here's my question, which many already touched on the answer. It's an obvious question, it's an obvious answer. Why indeed, after the first night when God told Balaam, you cannot go with the men to curse the Jewish people, and then he comes back the second night again asking permission to go. Why did God say yes? Why didn't God say no? I already told you no. The answer is no. When your kid asks you for something, right? Man, what I do? If the answer is no, I would never change my mind. No. Sometimes kids nudge enough. They'll eventually just give in. But the answer is no. The answer didn't change. The answer is still no. Why is God allowing him to go? So there's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful statement in the Talmud. I said beautiful 3 times on purpose because it's 3 times beautiful. The Talmud is talking about a sinner that killed by accident running to the city of refuge. And there was an obligation on the courts to put signposts at the crossroads to help direct this accidental murderer to show him or her which way to run to the city of refuge. So there were signposts. And then the Talmud says something very, very beautiful. It's a Gemara on Makos, page 10b. The Gemara says as follows. Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Elazar. Rav Huna says, Rav Elazar says, this is wrong. Whatever. From the Torah, from the prophets, and from the writings, one learns that a person is led along the path he wishes to follow. That's what the Talmud says. The path that a person chooses for himself, whether it's good or bad, you want to choose that path? That's okay, I won't stop you. I'll give you a hint. I'll give you direction. I'll give you a clarity. But we're going to the Talmud brings a proof from the Torah, which is the story of this story of Balaam, and from the prophets and from the books of the writings. 3 different proofs that God never forces a person to follow a path. God gives us free choice, which we've had several classes on recently about free choice. And free choice is one of the most fundamentally important concepts in Judaism. Because without free choice, our lives don't really, really, really have meaning. Our choices are, if we don't have real free choice, then our choices that we think we make are not meaningful. And we're not going to get rewarded for the good things we do. We're not going to face the consequences for the negative choices we make. Let me give me 1 minute. Let me make the point. And so therefore, God wants to give Balaam free choice. And so God says to Balaam, I already told you not to go. I see you really want to go. I'm not going to stop you from going the way you want to go. So God gives Balaam permission to go. And yet God feels bad. God says, I should try and remind him, I should give him another hint that this is not the right path. So what does God do? Even though God has already told him no, and God lets us choose our own path in life, that doesn't mean God says, okay, you chose, my hands are crossed, now I'm going to watch. That's not, a parent has to let children choose a path, but you have to also, when they're a little older, when they're, but at the same time, you don't say, well, I'm done. Had a whole conversation with the mother last week about a child. Your job as a mother is to still be an influencer, to speak to your child and to try and, that's our job as parents when they're older. When they're younger, they say a great line, I've said this before. When your child is young, your job is management. When you become a teenager, now your job goes into sales. Right? It's a whole different. But anyway, the point is, so God says, let me send him a hint. Let me try and, but the hint can't be too obvious. It can't be like God says you can't go. It can't be the lightning comes from the sky and hits Bilam, because then it's not free choice anymore. It's only free choice if there's still an ability to choose. So what does God do? God sends an angel to block the path. And the donkey goes around one time, which is already unusual. The donkey never did that before. And then the donkey goes and scrapes the wall a second time. And then the donkey stops and crouches a third time. Really, by then, Bilam should already be getting the hint. Something's a little fishy or a little donkey over here. Something's not right. But he's not getting the hint. So God says it's time for a miracle. I am going to change the rules of nature just in order to help a sinner realize the mistake that they are making. Do you understand what God is doing? God said, I'm going to break the rules that I created. I'm going to break my own system. I made a perfect world. And I'm going to break that perfect world and break my rules of nature. For who? For a sinner. For someone that did something wrong, who's actively choosing the path that I told him not to go on. I'm going to give him the ability. I'm going to change the nature of the universe to give him the ability to realize the mistake he's making. What? Give him a chance. That's why God needed to do a miracle. To give him a... It's not over. It's not over. It's going to get stronger. Don't go yes yet. Yeah. Not to realize. So God does a miracle. And guess what? After the miracle, and after God changed nature, Bilam still didn't get the hint. So God does a third miracle. What's the third miracle? After the donkey spoke twice, and the donkey says to him, did I ever not do what you asked? Did I ever not go the right path? God does another miracle, which we read in the verse. He opened the eyes of Bilam to see the angel, which was another miracle. He saw the donkey, the angel, and the angel told him, it's me, not the donkey. So finally, Bilam's getting it a little bit. So what does Bilam say? If it displeases you, I'll return. Which means he didn't get it. He didn't get it. So the angel says, okay, no, I'm not forcing you. Because the moment the angel forces you, says you can't go, it's no longer free choice. It's no longer free choice. So the angel says, I see if it displeases, if you're sensitive and if you get upset when I do this, okay, so for you, I'll stop. You understand? I'm not done. There's more, but I want to make sure you understand the answer to the question before I go further. So why did God do a miracle? To give man the chance to change from his ways. And the miracle didn't work. You know why the miracle didn't work? Because God wanted to give us free choice. God is so eager to give us free choice that not only is God willing to break his own rules of a perfect world, God's even willing to allow his miracles to fail and to flop, so as you have the choice to choose. If God would make his miracles successful, then there wouldn't be free choice. The only way it could be free choice is if God allows his own miracle to not be effective. That's what it is. God is allowing his miracle to, so to say, fail. It did.
Okay, well, there's going to be detoxification, so isn't it? I can continue doing it, like, to say not to do it.
Yeah. Okay, but the fact is, yes, that's what God did. God gave them a free choice. The fact is that God, so to say, ostensibly made a miracle that didn't have its desired outcome. Okay, now, what? Yeah, so now let's go a little further. So why did God make the donkey talk? If God wanted to send a hint to Bilam that you're on the wrong path, why does it make an animal talk? There's many ways of sending hints. You know, fire to fall. Oh, he still did it. Right. So why of all the ways that God wants to send a hint to Bilam, is it specifically a talking donkey? Let's understand a little bit. Why If God's willing to break the rules of nature, so why is it the talking donkey that he chooses to use as his hint to Bilam? It's extreme. That's true, but let's be more specific. More specific. He was used to witchery, which is why you think he doesn't get it then. Yeah, that's true. The Ramban explains something very beautiful, and the Kliyuk is similar. The Ramban explains that when he saw the miracle of a talking donkey, Bilam was meant to be reminded of the first that the God said to Moses at the burning bush, Mi yasam pela adam. Who gave man mouth? Who gave man the mouth to speak? God. Who made man mute that they can't speak? God. And just like he should have realized that just like Hashem has the ability to open the mouth of a donkey that normally can't talk, so too God can make my mouth close. He's coming to do what? To use his mouth to curse the Jews. And he thinks it's my mouth. So God doesn't just do a miracle. God does a miracle with the mouth of a donkey. With the mouth of a donkey. And God is reminding Bilam, who is the real master of the mouth? Who is the one that allows a mouth to open and speak? And who could also close a mouth that the mouth can't speak? It's all me, it's God. And that's the Kliyakar says a very similar idea that Hashem only, just like the fact that the donkey talked was only a temporary miracle. The donkey didn't become a talking donkey forever. It talked twice and then was killed. So too, God was hinting to Bilam, the fact that you have the ability to open your mouth in prophecy, it's a temporary miracle. I'm doing it for a reason. I want you to have the opportunity. But don't think that it's a permanent thing that's yours. Just like the talking donkey is a temporary breaking of nature, your ability to speak the word of God is a temporary gift I'm giving you. But the point of both of these commentaries is the same point. God is breaking the rules of nature specifically by allowing a donkey that does not normally talk, who is going against its nature, to talk, to tell Bilam, if you think you can't change your nature, if you think you can't change the way you speak, to go from cursing Jews to blessing Jews, look at the donkey. The donkey is talking out of nature. And just like the donkey is able to talk in a way that's not natural for it to talk, so too you can go give a blessing which is not natural. The point is, God is sending such an unbelievably clear, to us in hindsight in 2020, such an unbelievably clear message that just like this donkey is able to change his nature. Why? Because I am God and I control the mouth of the donkey and I can give the ability to speak and the ability to not speak. You can change your nature, Bilam. It's not too late for you to become a better person. He didn't. I didn't. Why not? Because Bilam is so self-obsessed. And Bilam is so self-righteous. And so convinced of his own greatness and his own control over his mouth that Bilam doesn't get the hint. And God can't say it any more clearly. He can only hint it through an animal. Because Bilam has free choice. And Bilam has to figure it out all for himself. Yes, that's part of why he didn't see it. Yes, not only was he so self-righteous, you're right, he also was so full of hate that hate didn't allow him to see things that are seemingly obvious. 100% correct, good point. So what's... not an inkling of free will. God gives us absolute free will. No, absolutely not. I did 3 classes on this topic. You have to go back and listen to them. Okay, so here, let me finish. So here comes a moral lesson for us from this story. Okay, Pirkei Avos is a book of ethical teachings. And Pirkei Avos is coming to tell us an unbelievable moral lesson for us in our lives from a talking donkey. 2,488 years before Bilam would ever come to curse the Jewish people. The world is almost perfect. The world is almost finished being the last finishing touches on the cake. Everything is done. It's about to be Shabbat when God finishes. And God's looking around the world saying, what last touches do I need to do before I say I'm done? And God sees in the future that there'll be a sinner. And God knows what kind of sinner Bilam will be. And God knows that he's going to ignore his command. And God knows he's going to use his God-given gifts not to make the world better, but to try and curse and to make the world worse. And nevertheless, God says, wait, I'm not ready to say I'm done yet. I need to prepare now the vehicle of the donkey talking, of my own nature, I just finished building, to be broken and changed, to allow an opportunity for a sinner to change, to do teshuvah. And this is a lesson for us, that God never, ever gives up on anybody. God never gives up. Even Bilam. Can you imagine a bigger Rasha, a bigger sinner, a more self-obsessed, self-righteous, hateful person like Bilam who wants to curse the Jews, who has tremendous gifts and uses them only for wickedness, living with his donkey, and can you imagine? And yet, Hashem is so eager to help someone change your evil ways. He's so willing to completely bend all the rules of nature, to give him one last wake-up call, one last reminder that on Erev Shabbos, in the last minute, when he's so busy, what's he doing? What's the final touch the world needs to be complete? Giving one more chance, not for a good guy, for a sinner to never give up on someone. And this teaches us for all of eternity the infinite preciousness of helping even one person change and become better. If God could spend the last minutes of the Friday afternoon before Shabbos working to create a way to help direct a sinner on choosing the right path, how much more so for us to dedicate our time to being, helping, trying, repeating over and over, even people that long ago we said, they're helpless. Talking to a wall, they don't listen. What am I going to do? I tried, I spoke to them, I met with them. And you think, I give up. They don't want, they chose. They have free choice. They made a bad choice. They chose the wrong path for themselves. We never, ever, ever say it's too late. We never give up on them. 1 second. We never give up on them. And this, not just anything of Bilam, this is a lesson for us. Never to give up on anybody. Even if it means that we have to break our nature and break our own rules and go out of our comfort zone and allow our rules where animals don't talk to change it for someone else. Understand? Yeah. Because he had free choice. He didn't change. That's what I'm saying. The miracle didn't work, but that doesn't didn't work because God allows his miracles to be limited to our choosing if it'll work or not. Yes, there was no free will. That's correct. And no, he went to do it. He had free will. At the moment of the curse, it's like when Pharaoh's heart was hard and he couldn't. Anyway, yeah. I don't have time. I have a story to say. Yeah. No, Bilam gave, what happened to Bilam, the end of the story is Bilam, thank you for all those who joined the class. What happened afterwards that Bilam went and gave advice when he saw he had no ability to curse the Jews. So he gave advice to the people of Moab, get the Jews to sin, seduce them to sin. When they sin and they act immorally, then they'll also worship idols. And then God will be angry. And then there was a plague and 24,000 people died. And then he came back to get reward. He didn't pay him for the curses because no curses came out. So he gave advice that worked. He came back to collect his advice. And when he came back, Pinchas was there. They went to war against the Moabites, the Midianites, and Pinchas saw him and he killed him. And he was killed by the sword. Anyway, I want to show you a story. What? He ended up dead.
That's why we have reincarnation. When you
Yes. So I already told you I don't want to have that conversation now. So please, thank you. Okay. I want to tell you a story I read from Rabbi Levi. Leave it. So Rabbi Levi Book is a rabbi in Chicago. And in early 1980s, he was on the line by the Rebbe on Sukkot to get lekach. Lekach is honey cake. So there's a custom that on either before Rosh Hashanah or on Hoshana Rabbah, which is the last day of Sukkot, right before Simchas Torah, where we get a honey cake and we get the blessing for a sweet new year. Just like the honey cake is sweet, for a blessing for a sweet new year. So the Rebbe would distribute personally to any single person that wanted, men, women, children, he would distribute a piece of lekach. You ask for the cake, and he would give a blessing for a sweet year. Later years, he didn't go both. He either got before Rosh Hashanah, you got those who weren't there, and got on the Hoshana Rabbah in the Sukkah right before Simchas Torah. So Levi Bukit, since he's a yeshiva student, he's online, and in front of him is some guy with long, long hair, not religious at all. You can tell the guy has like a little kippah, like perched on top of his head. Somehow he got it to stick on there. Long hair, not dressed in jeans or whatever he's dressed in. And he comes and he's online. And then there's a Satmar Chassid. Those who are familiar with the Satmar community, it's a very insulated, isolated community that doesn't engage in the outside world. They live a very sheltered, protected life. So Levi Bukit is standing there, and he sees that this non-religious guy comes to the Rebbe, gets the lekach, and then the Rebbe asks him, where are you going to be tomorrow for Simchas Torah, for the dancing of the Hakafos? As known, the Rebbe loved Simchas Torah. This was the Rebbe's holiday. So he said, I have no plans. So the Rebbe told him, I would be honored if you would come join us and dance with us on Simchas Torah. Okay, he gave him the thing. The guy didn't commit to coming. The Rebbe personally invited him, not to get a personal invitation from the Rebbe to come join for Simchas Torah for the dancing in 770. He gets the piece of cake and he walks on. The next guy in front of Levi Bukit is the Satmar Chassid. Satmar Chassid didn't say anything, but the Rebbe knew how to read minds. In many stories, the Rebbe knew, could feel what was in your heart in a second. And the Rebbe right away felt that this guy is bothered. Why is the Rebbe inviting a non-religious guy who barely, long hair, no beard, no hat and jacket, inviting him to Simchas Torah? So the Rebbe asks him if he's familiar. He said it's a clear story in a book called Tehillah L'Moshe. Now, Tehillah L'Moshe is a book that was authored by Rav Moshe Teitelbaum, who was also known as the Yismach Moshe. He was a rabbi in Hungary in the early 1800s in a city called Uhel or something like that. He was the Satmar Chassidim come from the Teitelbaums. This is before even Satmar. They were the predecessor, so to say, of the Satmar Rebbe's is Rav Moshe Teitelbaum, who lived in the early 1800s in Hungary. He wrote a book called Tehillah L'Moshe, which is a commentary on Tehillim, on Tanakh. And so the guy, the Satmar Chassid, is looking at the Rebbe, has no idea what the Rebbe is referring to in the book Tehillah L'Moshe. So he's like giving a blank look. So the Rebbe says, it's your Rebbe. And the Rebbe says, there's a story in Tehillah L'Moshe where Rebbe Itzikel of Drabovich, who was the father of Rabbi Michal of Zlotchov, met Rashi in heaven. I just said a lot of names. Let me say it slowly. One of the most famous students of the Baal Shem Tov is a holy, holy, holy man whose name was Rabbi Michal of Zlotchov. There's a song in his name. He was a very holy man. He was a tzaddik, really a tzaddik. And there's actually a song that he composed. He said, if you sing the song, it will inspire you to do teshuvah. He made many, many Baalei teshuvah. Many people that changed their lives to come close to God as a result of his influence. He was a very, very holy, influential man, one of the students of the Baal Shem Tov. The father of this holy man, of the Michal of Zlotchov, so the Tehillah L'Moshe writes in his book, was in heaven. He passed away. And in heaven, he met the soul of Rashi. And the neshama of Rashi, Rav Shlomo Yitzchaki, asks Reb Itzel of Drabovich, what is the merit of your son that in heaven all the angels sing his praise? All the angels, they get excited from the famous of Michal of Zlotchov. What does your son do that the angels sing his praise? So Reb Itzel, his father of Reb Michal of Zlotchov, says to Rashi, my son's very holy. He spends many, many hours learning Torah and praying, and he learns Lishma. He learns Torah not for his own benefit. He learns Torah for the sake of God. So Rashi says, I know many people in the earth that are learning Torah Lishma. So he says he gives a lot of tzedakah. Whatever money he has, he gives to charity. So the Rashi says, I know a lot of people that give a lot of charity, that don't keep any money for themselves and give everything to charity. I know people like that too. So he says he fasts a lot in prayer and in self. He breaks his body and he fasts and is a very righteous man who doesn't involve himself in the pleasures of this world. Rashi said, no, many people do that also. So the father says to Rashi, he's made many Balei Teshuvah. He's made many people come closer to God. And everyone on their level, everyone maybe not religious, more religious, more religious, more religious, more spiritual, more connected, everyone, he made many people come close to God. And then Rashi said, now I understand why the angels are singing his praise. Understand? It's a very, very powerful. And so this is what the Rebbe was saying to this Amar Chassid. You want to know why I'm giving so much love to this non-religious person? It's in the Sefer of the Satmar Chassidim about the father of Michal of Zloshev, that he acknowledged that in heaven the angels sing the praise of this holy man, not because he studies Torah, not because he fasts and and prays, not because he gives charity, but because he spends time bringing people closer to God. And so too, I'm doing the same thing. I'm bringing people closer to God. Anyway, next night was Simcha started dancing. He walked away, and after the Rebbe left Hakafas, the Rebbe danced for many hours in 770. And after the Rebbe went upstairs, people were staying and dance for many more hours till the morning. People were dancing in 770. And after the Rebbe left, they were dancing. And sure enough, this Rabbi Levi Bukit saw that guy with long hair was in 770 dancing as well at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. He was in 770 dancing. And it's just one story. This is so much, if you understand the mindset that Rebbe put into us to never give up on somebody. Many people don't understand. I understand you want to make a shul and help people, but that guy is the ultimate nudnik, and that woman is, she doesn't get anything. There's you're talking to a brick wall, and look how wicked and how sinful and how selfish and how. While it's true that God gives us free choice and God lets us choose the path we go on, the message that God sent us right before Shabbos, when He started preparing the breaking of the rules of nature, to allow a donkey to talk and to remind a man whose power was with his mouth, that the power of the mouth comes from God, not from you, to remind us, to teach us the infinite value of never giving up on anybody and never saying, oh, they're sinners, they're wicked. To never give up and to try without forcing, but to direct and to guide a person onto the proper path. That, my friends, is the lesson for us from the miracle of the talking donkey. Hope you enjoyed. And next week, same time, same place. Yeah. Yeah. Well, who? Yeah. Yeah, correct. He I'm glad you enjoyed. Michael, I'm glad you enjoyed. Kim, I'm glad you enjoyed. Steph, I'm glad you enjoyed. Carmen, I'm glad you enjoyed. Ravit, great language to go. Yes. Hashem is always obvious and do it. Greg Mindy, you said it exactly right. Harold and Loretta in Oregon, thank you for joining us. I'm glad you enjoyed. Jessica, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed. Rabbi Bukit of Baltimore is very possible to brother. Ask what's Rabbi Bukit of Baltimore's name. Ask him. It's very possible. There's a lot of books. There's a book here in Boca also. David, I'm glad you enjoyed. Arja Shakoach, Sarah, thank you. One of your favorites. Oh, look at that comment. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed. Alice, never stop learning. Laila Tov, Sarah. Midrash Shigami, the donkey speed. Yeah, Melina, exactly what I said. Thank you. Yes. Joe, I'm glad you're joining us from Olympia, Washington. Yes. Yes, Dwar. You need my help? It's also thank you, Alice. Thank you. Yes, never stop learning. Toda Rabba. Thank you, Heidi. Okay.